to give folks a minute to gather here. My name is Steve Art from the Civil Rights. We're being told to squeeze in, so if folks can squeeze in, squeeze in. We good? My name is Steve Art, and I'm an attorney with the law firm Loevy and Loevy. This morning, Erica Reddick heard arguments on a petition to appoint a special prosecutor filed by hundreds of community members in Cook County seeking accountability for the crimes committed by federal agents during Operation Midway Blitz. I am surrounded by some of those petitioners here. The Cook County State's Attorney in this case has acknowledged that crimes occurred in Cook County during Operation Midway Blitz. Despite that fact, and despite recognizing that clear crimes have occurred, the state's attorney has taken the position that she will not investigate those crimes. In fact, she has gone so far as to argue in court, including in court today, that it is illegal for her to investigate those crimes and to hold those federal agents accountable. She has taken that position at the same time as taking the position that it is unlawful for anyone else to investigate or prosecute the crimes committed by federal agents during Operation Midway Blitz. We, as petitioners, are left in a situation where there is no chance that the state's attorney will make sure that there is accountability in Cook County for what occurred during Operation Midway Blitz. That is the official statement of the state's attorney in court today, and it is exactly why a special prosecutor is needed. We are in a situation in Cook County where it has been 8 months since these crimes occurred. The public has been crying for justice for 8 months, and for 8 months, the state's attorney has made unmistakably clear that there will be no accountability. And I'm going to introduce you to some of the petitioners now who are going to talk to you about what this lack of accountability means to our community. And then at the end, we'll take questions. Yes, it's Steve Art, A-R-T, from Loevy and Loevy. Our first speaker is going to be Cook County Commissioner Jessica Vasquez.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Vasquez. I'm 8th District Cook County Commissioner representing portions of the Northwest Side across the city of Chicago. I would also like to acknowledge some of my colleagues who attended the hearing today with me. State Senator Graciela Guzman, Cook County Commissioner Alma, Anaya, State Representative Lillian Jimenez, State Representative Norma Jimenez, Alderwoman Rosana Rodriguez Sanchez. These are just a few of the over 80 elected officials across our state who are demanding justice for our communities. It was not long ago that communities across Cook County witnessed and were subject to the violent and brutal tactics carried out by ICE agents under Operation Midway Blitz. The state violence at the hands of these federal agents was documented by community and members of the press alike. And I want to note that our attorney said in court that the evidence is staring us all in the face. Many recall the murder of Siverio Villegas Gonzalez, the near-fatal shooting of Marimar Martinez, but there are countless of incidents of excessive force, intimidation, and wrongful arrest of our residents, again, immigrants and citizens alike. We know this because we have had shadow hearings and formal hearings led by members of Congress. Evidence of incidents has been sent to the Illinois Accountability Commission and discussed at length in public. And in some instances, yes, attempts have been made to file police reports and formal complaints. I joined this petition because I believe our elected officials need to do everything in their power to defend our democracy and protect the rule of law. And when we say no one is above the law, that means there are no exceptions for government actors. Our communities demand justice. Our communities deserve justice. Crimes were committed by ICE agents, and State's Attorney Eileen O'Neill Burke has failed to act. For this reason, we need an independent special prosecutor. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ray Wences from ICIRR, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wences, pronouns they, them. We're here today with 80, some of the 80 elected officials, as well as over 200 community organizations and supporters. We're here because as the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, we know that it is important to call for real solution to to what our communities have endured over the past year and what they're still living today. We at ICIRR support the petition of calling for this special prosecutor to investigate alleged crimes committed by federal agents during Operation Midway Blitz. Let's be clear, this is not a symbolic ask, it is a necessary step toward accountability. Every elected official has a role to play, including the state's attorney, in protecting the people of Cook County and the state. And we've seen the leadership from Chicago City Council members, the mayor, the state legislature, and the county board. They have taken the steps and used their voices and influence to push back against the harm in our communities. But while many have spoken against ICE and CBP violence, the state's attorney has yet to say clearly that what's happening is wrong. And today, they doubled down on that. So we are here today to say to the state's attorney must step up or step aside and allow a special prosecutor to do the job of investigating these crimes. This is not an isolated issue. The impact has been felt across Chicago and throughout the suburbs. When we see this kind of federal overreach, this kind of disregard for due process and equal justice under the law, it affects every single resident of our city, of our county, and our state. This is a unified demand from our communities across the region to protect our neighbors, to uphold the law, and ensure accountability. When the state's attorney does not pursue an investigation, justice is not just delayed, it is denied. Those responsible are left without scrutiny, and the message sent to our communities is that their rights do not matter. But the facts demand action now, and our communities deserve transparency, accountability, and justice. Appoint a special prosecutor now.
Thank you.
Wences, Wences.
Next up, Jocelyn, Correa, and Yaired from the PASO West Suburban Action Project.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Yaired Orduno and I am a community organizer at PASO West Suburban Action Project in Melrose Park, Illinois.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn, Correa. I am a community member and I'm a leader at PASO.
PASO has directly supported multiple families in Melrose Park that have been impacted by ICE and CBP agent raids, detentions, and enforcement actions. We have been able to train over 500 community members to become rapid responders in the west suburbs. We have done this work because of what we have witnessed in our neighborhoods, including the killing of our neighbor Silverio Villegas Gonzalez that happened last year in September 12th. We still don't know what ICE agents murdered him, and the Cook County State's Attorney has done nothing to investigate. We have also seen cases like Ricardo Rodriguez in Melrose Park, who was beaten during an enforcement action and ended up in the hospital due to all the injuries that he sustained. Which is why today we fully support the call for an independent prosecutor. Too many of our communities have been living in fear, while those responsible for causing the harm have not faced any consequences. And these are not just stories we hear, they're real life experiences that people have lived, and today you'll hear directly from Jocelyn.
Hello, I am a 19-year-old college student, but I'm also a daughter of two hardworking immigrants who have risked everything for me and my siblings. I have lived in Melrose Park my entire life, and what once was very fun has caused a lot of fear in our neighborhoods. This increased ICE activity has made our daily lives change. I know not only for me, but for many other families. My mother especially, she loves going to church every Sunday, but she now fears it. She now fears to even go to her doctor's appointments. My father goes to work every day at 5 in the morning, and I'm scared that he won't return back home, or he'll be beaten or even killed. My mom tells me now, she's like, well, you're 19. If anything happens, you'll be okay. You're a little older now. But the truth is that even at 19, I still need my parents. And I still carry that same fear I had that when I was a child, that when I come home from school, they won't be there. I will never forget September 12, 2025, around 9 a.m. when ICE came into my neighborhood. I was woken up by car alarms and my mother breaking down. I had seen that my neighbor got detained. This reminded me how close this fear really was. This might be news for some, but it's not for me and many other families. This is our reality. Our neighbors are getting beaten and killed. So this is why I call to hold those accountable who have caused this fear and chaos in our communities. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. And at PASO, we stand behind the push for an independent prosecutor. We believe that it is well past time for these federal and state actors to be held accountable for their actions and the harm that they continue to inflict in our communities. At PASO, we believe that the power is with the people, and we will continue to fight for the people. Thank you. Yes, it's Yaired Orduno. It's YAIRED ORDUNO.
And then it's Jocelyn, Jocelyn, Correa, CORREA. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hola, buenas tardes, tardes. Soy Alma, Anaya, comisionada del 7º Distrito del Condado de Cook. Yo represento el suroeste de la ciudad de Chicago, incluso donde empezó la Operación Midway Blitz, ahí cuadras de muchos de nosotros. Estamos hoy día juntos pidiendo que la fiscal haga algo sobre los crímenes que se han cometido contra nuestras comunidades, a las personas que como Silverio han matado, a las personas como Marimar que han tratado de matar y a muchas de las personas de las comunidades que han sido afectadas por crímenes de personas del gobierno federal como ICE o Border Patrol. Estamos pidiendo un fiscal independiente, alguien que vea estos crímenes. Tenemos la petición que se escuchó hoy día, es de más de 80 electos oficiales, más de 200 organizaciones y personas comunitarias que han visto estos crímenes en nuestras comunidades. Exigimos justicia. Exigimos que nos escuchen, exigimos que se haga algo por todos estos crímenes de los cobardes que han venido a nuestras comunidades para intimidarnos y hacer estas cosas contra nosotros. Nadie tiene que morir a manos de una persona como ICE. Nadie tiene que ser perseguida nomás por su estatus inmigratorio. Y esto es lo que estamos haciendo hoy. Vamos a estar exigiendo esta justicia por medios no nomás de protestas, pero medios por nuestras cortes, y es lo que pedimos y exigimos hoy día.
Thank you all. And we'll take any questions that you all have.
In arguments,
Please come up.
you addressed, your interpretation of Greenland. You addressed, almost everything else that the state attorney's office brought, except for I feel like you haven't addressed yet the risk that they say, if they or a special prosecutor under Cook County's auspices bring a case, investigate, then bring a case, and then that case is eventually overturned in appellate court because it's, on a technicality or because, as they suggested, they could tear it down by saying, well, the county prosecutor wanted to, or a special prosecutor was politically motivated. I mean, are you willing to take that risk?
The question is, are we willing to take the risk of a prosecution of a federal official falling apart because of some technicality, roughly stated? Let me say this, the risk here to us as a community and as a democracy is a risk that we have no accountability when officials commit misconduct. That's the risk. If there is a prosecution, if there is an attempt to hold someone to account, if the case is presented to a judge or a jury, if the case is presented to an appellate court, we will have process, which in our democracy is what is required to make sure that we are holding our public officials accountable when they do something that we as a community say is wrong. Hundreds, if not thousands, of criminal cases are tried in this building every day, in the federal building, downtown in the Loop. And in all of those cases, there is a risk that there will be a successful defense to the charges, that a witness won't show up to testify, that something will go wrong in the case. Those things happen in criminal cases. For any of those things to happen, however, we need to get to the starting line. And the starting line is somebody who will not prosecute no matter what, but somebody who will look at the evidence and exercise some kind of prosecutorial power to say there needs to be accountability and justice in this case. And so to the extent that that is a risk, we are happy to take it. And it's a risk that we as a community take every time we elect a prosecutor to exercise prosecutorial power in a case.
And now to the point that the assistant state's attorneys made, that it is not their role to investigate. And until an investigative body, an agency, a police agency brings an investigation to them, it's not their role.
What's our response to that? So the question is, what is our response to the argument by the state that it's not their role to investigate? Our response to that is the state's attorney in Cook County investigates all the time. It investigates alone. It investigates in collaboration with state authorities. It investigates in collaboration with federal authorities.
Specifically, they argue that they shouldn't be the primary investigative body.
The problem that we have with the argument that they shouldn't be the primary investigative body is that it's not an argument that ends there. What they are saying is, we are not going to investigate unless a police agency brings us a finished case. And in Cook County, the police agencies are not bringing the state's attorney any cases. And the argument and what Illinois law requires a state's attorney to do in that situation is take some action. It is not enough to say, because the police have done nothing, I will also do nothing, and therefore nothing will happen. What the law requires in that situation is not that the state's attorney is the primary investigator, but the state's attorney has the obligation and the duty under Illinois law to take some action when no one else will. And because this state's attorney has decided that she cannot legally take any action when no one else has, a special prosecutor is necessary to ensure that anything happens at all.
Is this politically motivated?
Is the petition politically motivated?
Yes. Do you believe that the state's attorney is not taking action due to political affiliation, political connection, political concern?
Here's what we will say about that. What is clear, the question, to repeat the question, is, do we believe that this is politically motivated, the inaction? I don't think that any of us could tell you what the collection of reasons are that the state's attorney has taken no action. What we know is the state's attorney has taken no action in the 8 months since these crimes were committed, has stated that she will take no action in the court proceedings today, and that is enough to convince us that someone else needs to come in and play a role here. On the question of politics, we attached to our reply an email that was sent by the Chief of Communications for the state's attorney's office right at the time that President Donald Trump threatened to send federal troops to Chicago, and right at the same time that he had done the same thing in Washington, D.C. And the reason that we have attached this email is because the state's attorney says, through her spokesperson, very clearly, I will not sign on to a statement criticizing the Trump administration because I value my collaboration with federal agents and federal agencies too much. It is my top priority, she says. No, I was just going to say, from our perspective, that is a fine priority to have. But it can present a conflict in the situation where you as the elected state's attorney are charged with going after the very federal agents and agencies that you collaborate with. And so we have attached this email sent by the state's attorney saying I cannot sign on to this statement because our contention is if you can't even criticize in a public statement the heinous threat of an American president to send federal troops to an American city, you are not in a situation where you can investigate, evaluate, and prosecute crimes ultimately committed by those agents.
It seems to be that no law enforcement agencies, they're saying, have ever launched an investigation into anything that federal agents have done. I know people who said they have gone to CPD. Is it that there are no records that anyone has ever complained to CPD or Franklin Clark or others about anything that federal agents have done?
So we know that people have made complaints. We know that there is a record of the misconduct in multiple court cases that are on file. So the evidence is available. It's not in some speculative forum. The state's attorney was saying we'd have to go look at the internet and find all this evidence. That's obviously not the case. You all have been covering this. The public has seen these proceedings play out. The evidence is in the record, sufficient to support charges in a lot of these incidents. Our requests to local law enforcement agencies are for records of their investigations. And what they're saying is, we have no records of ongoing investigations. Thus far. Potentially, I can't tell you for each one of the incidents in Operation Midway Blitz if there's a complaint on file for each of them. For some of them, we know that there are. We will certainly attempt to quantify that in this litigation as it moves forward.
How crucial is that, though, on the police reports? Because the judge seemed really focused on that, whether or not people have actually gone to CPD and say,
right.
What do you make of her questions?
I will not interpret her questions. I think that, Judge Reddick will consider this case very carefully as she has committed to. We don't think that it's crucial to the analysis for a couple reasons. One, there is a widespread record of evidence in this community, in court cases, in the actions of the Illinois Accountability Commission, in criminal court cases that have gone on, of exactly the types of misconduct that were committed here. And as my colleague said during argument, there is video evidence of many of these heinous acts. And in that way, this case is a lot like what we saw in Laquan McDonald, where there wasn't an official complaint to a police agency that then investigated that complaint and presented it to the state's attorney. In that case, the allegation was that the Chicago Police Department was covering up the misconduct. And there was a video, and in that case, the state's attorney, when pressed and the video was released, filed charges. We are in very much, as we said in court, the same situation here, where police agencies are not taking action, the state's attorney is not taking action. There is a wealth of evidence out there in the public record, in court records, that the state's attorney can utilize. I imagine that the state's attorney has much of that evidence as we stand here today, and nothing has happened. And just like in Laquan McDonald's case, a special prosecutor can ensure that the prosecutorial duties that the people of Cook County depend upon are carried out in this case.
How do you work around things like supremacy clause or qualified immunity for these entities that kind of get thrown around?
Yeah.
When we talk about local charges or federal laws.
Yeah. The question is, how do we get around issues like the supremacy clause and qualified immunity? It's an important question because we live in a democracy with a state government and a federal government. But what is foundational about our democracy is you don't, because of your title, enjoy immunity to come commit crimes in a local jurisdiction, right? None of us think, oh, we've elected these federal agents to come and do whatever they want in local communities with impunity. And so what the supremacy clause really says in this context is if somebody is doing something reasonable related to their job, they're going to have a defense in an ultimate prosecution of the case, which is a reasonable doctrine to have. I don't think that anybody who takes a fair look at the evidence of these serious crimes could possibly say that they are related to a legitimate federal law enforcement prerogative or that they're reasonable. Obviously, these are not reasonable actions. And so the question, would they have a defense under the Supremacy Clause and an ultimate prosecution, again, is a question that comes way down the line in a criminal case. It's not, in our view, likely to be a successful defense in a criminal case, but we're never going to know that unless someone comes in and actually prosecutes and investigates these crimes in the first place. So that's what we're here asking for, and we don't think that looking down the road at potential legal obstacles should be a thing that causes a prosecutor to say, I'm just not going to exercise my discretion at all.
Accountability is there not just for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. What do you think it says about the Chicago Police Department, the Franklin Park Police Department, that literally thousands of acts of violence have allegedly committed in Cook County, and yet zero complaints have been referred to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office?
The question is what about accountability when it comes to the inaction of the Chicago Police Department and Franklin Park Police Department and other local police departments? And I think the answer to that is, it's a great point. You know, we can't file a motion for appointment of a special police department. What we can do is file a motion for the appointment of a special prosecutor to make sure that there is some official with lawful authority who's taking action in this case. But of course, those crimes should be investigated by local law enforcement. Of course they should. As I said at the beginning, our democracy depends on accountability for public officials. We have seen in the United States and all over the world the consequences when we abandon a commitment to accountability. And what we are standing for here today is the restoration of a culture of accountability in Cook County. And that applies to the Cook County State's Attorney, it applies to the Chicago Police Department, it applies to the Franklin Park Police Department, and it applies to anyone else who is entrusted with the public's authority to investigate and prosecute these crimes that were committed during Operation Midway Blitz.
I was just going to bring up the parallel, if there is, to the Kwame. That case, one could argue, did result in seismic changes in the city and in the county. Do you think we are at that point now?
Well, I think we should be. The question was the Laquan McDonald case, when the Chicago police violence upon McDonald came to light, was seismic. I say to you that what happened here in Chicago last fall during Operation Midway Blitz shook or should have shaken to the foundations everyone's confidence in the integrity of federal law enforcement, in the ordinary order of our civil society, in fundamental safety on the streets of Chicago. It was a deeply shattering event. Just as the Laquan McDonald video prompted people to cry aloud and demand justice, so, as you've heard this morning, more eloquently than I possibly could state, has the misfeasance, the criminality of federal law enforcement inflicted upon vulnerable communities all around this city, has that as well called folks to call out for justice. In the McDonald case, authority stood silent for many months until the voices of the community could not be silenced and had to be heard. And so today, by this petition and in countless other ways, our community is stepping up and stepping out and saying, we demand accountability, we demand justice, as was said. And that is what this petition is about, and that is why fundamentally this is a moment of decision. This is a fulcrum. This is a time for serious people to step up and do the right thing. My name is Locke Bowman, first name spelled L-O-C-K-E, last name Bowman, spelled B-O-W-M-A-N. I am a partner at the firm of Loevy and Loevy.
Just some nuts and bolts questions. So the hearing, we're expected to hear a ruling May 11th. And if past experience teaches us anything, what would be the reality of how quickly a special prosecutor could be appointed? Because there's a whole process of who's available, who's interested. Just what is the reality? Where it's in April 2026? Is this something that we could see a special prosecutor appointed if you're in favor by the ICIRR?
Oh, I think so. I would hope sooner than that. There is a process, as you indicate. The first question that the chief judge would have to would have to ask to start the process if she decided a special prosecutor was necessary. The first step would be to ask around to all the state's attorneys in our state whether they have the time and the ability and the inclination to step up and volunteer and do this. Past experience has shown that that's a question that's often answered in the negative by very busy prosecutors who are focused on their own communities all around the state. In the absence of a state's attorney, then a private lawyer appropriately qualified can be appointed to step in. That's what happened in the Koshman case, so that would be the process here.
Thank you all very much.
Can you just describe like who else is here? Some of the different organizations.
Yeah, we've got mostly petitioners here. Representatives.
I swear to God, one question. I got you.